Alright, so, spoilers. I'm going to go through the movie and just kind of talk about my thoughts, because I'm almost 100% sure that's the only way I can do this without having a notepad in front of me. But overall, I will say, I've seen the movie 2 times, so this is after my second viewing. In my non-spoiler review, I definitely had some nitpicks. I gave it an 87. I will say after seeing it a second time, my thoughts have changed a little. There's still negatives that I have with the movie, but I would say overall, my idea of the movie has went up. And I would give it about a 91. I would say it's an A-level movie because it has elite comedy, but really talking about Spider-Man and bringing the essence of him out, I saw it a little more the second time. So anyway, going through it, you start off right away with Michael Keaton and his crew. I'm so conflicted with this. I really like the scene. I like the idea. Now, again, if you follow the trailers and the news, this is nothing new. This is pretty much what we all knew going into it, that they switched the story where they're all a cleanup crew that gets screwed over by Tony Stark, and then they eventually use the parts to make weapons and become villains. Okay, very creative, very new, fresh. I don't necessarily like how it ties so much to Tony Stark, because this is more a beef of that Tony Stark created than Spider-Man. Eventually they do go to blows with Spider-Man because he's in their business, but if you think about it, it's more Tony Stark than anything. And I don't like the whole movie how Tony Stark has so many claws into the story of Spider-Man. But this kind of kicks it off, because while I like Vulture being different, I don't like that the Shocker, the Tinkerer, Scorpion, like almost everybody is somehow connected to a cleanup crew, because I like it. But at the end of the movie, I was like, that's kind of funny how all the villains were just kind of blue collar workers rather than regular criminals. Now it looks like Scorpion might be a criminal, but still, it's just like, that's weird a little bit. It's kind of cheesy almost. Like, people say you got to change the origin because his villains were kind of cheesy. I'm like, it's kind of cheesy to say, oh, we were all in a cleanup crew, in the junkyard, and all of a sudden we became villains. That's a little weird too. So anyway, we get that, but I thought that was nice because you don't have to waste any time interrupting Spider-Man to tell the story of the villain, and for a change of that big of level where you change the story of the villains, it actually was pretty efficient to do it that fast within the first 5 minutes. So then you get to the footage of Peter Parker filming everything, and it's a great idea. Great idea. It's definitely something a 2017 kid would do. And then not only that, we've seen that on the internet, so we kind of knew it was coming, but to see the whole thing play out was funny. I don't know if you catch it, but like the thing I thought was hilarious right when he started off, he was like, New York, it's a rough borough, but it's home. He was like trying to talk like Logan or something. It was so fun. Like, Tom Holland was such a kid. He's 19 in real life, so he's young, but I can't call him a kid. But he plays a kid very well in these movies. And so, anyway, he narrates, he's with Happy Hogan, and, the Civil War stuff, which, it was cool. It was cool to see it. It was pretty funny. And then it plays out the way I thought it would, where they pick up with Tony dropping him off and just like, okay, here's the suit. You stay here. You're not really an Avenger. Do some local stuff. The thing I didn't expect was to see Happy Hogan in this movie for like all of it. He's pretty much the right-hand man to Peter somewhat. Even though he's more of his guardian, he's the contact between Iron Man and Spider-Man. So I didn't expect that. Like, we expected Tony to be in it a decent amount, and I expected Happy to be in there even less than that. But it worked because Jon Favreau's dry humor and like the character of Happy, when he's with Tony, he's kind of like, come on, Tony, we're friends. But when he's with a kid, he's like, oh, I ain't got time for that. I'm better than, hey, hang up, stop calling me. So it was funny. He made the character of Happy even funnier. And then, 2 months go by, and like, I love the details of this movie. That's the best part about this movie. Like, they showing him texting Happy, and then they just take a second to show you he's been sending all these texts and got no reply from Happy. That's what a kid would do. He's like texting with emojis. He's like, get out of school at 2:45, like with a fist pound. It's just, it was funny. It was detailed and it was funny. And I love the camera work. I don't know if I'm really familiar with John Watts and what he's done, but I will say he did great camera work. Like, for me, cinematography is big. Just the way they kind of follow things and then it shifts to another. It's hard to explain, but I just love that opening when we see Peter going to school and everything, the way they always move the camera from one thing to another. And I love the way they shifted. So all that looked good. Then you meet his best friend, Ned. And all the high school stuff was cool. I thought that opening high school scene was a little long. I'm like, okay, let's get, because they're making you feel like, okay, I want to hurry up and go be Spider-Man. And I felt that, but, you know, I can understand the character wants to do that without you actually putting me through it. But anyway, so he's Spider-Man. He's doing local stuff, and then he eventually gets to the bank robbery. And which is the scene you've seen a lot in the trailers. But the thing they added in was that they blew up the deli across the street, which is a place Peter hangs out. I thought they was going to kill the owner. They should have did that. Now, it's devastating for him to have all his life's work get ruined, and they don't mention that, but you can tell. So I think it still serves the purpose of like, wow, this hero stuff is for real. But I thought if you killed him, it would have really made it stronger. But still a good moment for him to realize, like, crap, this is real. So anyway, the best parts, once Ned finds out he's Spider-Man, he is like a teenager. He's like, dude, I'm a level with you. I don't think I'm gonna be able to hold this in. I need to go tell somebody about this. He's like, you can't trust me. I'm a snitch, man. Come on, this could change our lives. So Ned is just all in his face asking him questions. It's so good because, again, the movie is self-aware. All the things you think of, I feel like they address them, kind of like Deadpool does. It's like his friend's like, hey, what's the spider at? I'll let it bite me. Does it hurt? I'll still let it bite me. Like, we will all say that. Like, where that spider at? I want to become a superhero too. And then he's asking him all these questions. Then he gets to the gym scene. And the dude is yelling, Peter knows Spider-Man. It was so funny. Like, the first time I saw it, the crowd, we laughed. The second crowd, everybody's like, oh, man. Everybody's yelling at Ned. It was funny. So, they go to the party and all that. So, this is where it gets to a really strong point that I noticed, but I didn't really marinate on it the first time. He's ready to do the party trick. He sees the explosion, and then he goes to the explosion because he's a hero. But the second time, and, you know, listening to people talk about the movie, I'm like, you're right. That's a Spider-Man moment from the cartoon show. That's moments where it's like, I want to be a high school kid, but I chose to be a hero. I got to put away high school, you know, fun in my life to go be a hero. And the same thing happens later when they're on a trip and all the kids sneak out to go to the swimming pool. And the girl he likes is in a bikini, like, come get in this pool. And he like, man, he's looking at him like, I would love to have that life, but I'm something different now. And he goes and both times I thought he was going to like, okay, let me swing through the party. I hate when he does that. Swing through the party and then go to the explosion. Okay, let me jump in the pool and then get to that later. And both times he chose to skip the high school stuff and go do his job. So that was actually really strong for me the second time around, where I was like, that does remind me of the cartoon show. Even the homecoming part, I'm skipping way ahead and I'll go back, but the first time I was so mad because all the executives was like, no, it's actually about homecoming. It's actually about the dance. This is about the homecoming dance. And then the way it was, but I'm thinking we're going to get like some crazy homecoming scene. I don't know, like Back to the Future. I don't know if he's going to play the guitar, DJ, come in as Spider-Man and dance. I'm thinking something's going to happen with his high school life and this homecoming dance. But he's there for a second and leaves. And I'm like, really? Do people going to believe he keeps running away? But then I remember that's the TV show. That's Clark Kent always leaving when Superman's there. And in the TV show Spider-Man, he's always leaving Mary Jane, always pissing somebody off, always pissing off Aunt May. He's just gone. And I'm like, you know what? They capture exactly what the essence was when he chooses to go be a hero rather than do his regular life. And so I really enjoyed that part. Now, backing up a little bit, I did not like the whole academic decathlon trip. I thought it was so long, like, especially once you know what's happening. The first time it's like, yeah, okay. The second time I'm like, oh crap, here we go with this trip. Like, when they were on the bus, it was cool. But then the whole hacking into the suit, hold on. Like, the whole point of the Chitauri gem being a nuclear bomb, I felt like was so unneeded. You did not need it. They only put that in there so he could save the people from the elevator. And I feel like you could have did it quicker or a different way or a different situation. Like, that whole trip, I did not need to see. I really did not need to see. I didn't need to see him get trapped in the compound. Even though it's hilarious, his conversation with Karen. But even like him learning his suit, he doesn't know the suit afterwards. Like, he gets better towards the end, but he still doesn't really even know the suit. So the whole training montage wasn't even effective. So that whole part, the Washington, D.C. thing, I felt like could have been cut out or trimmed down. Like, they did not have to go to Maryland to do that. I feel like he could have had that same fight with Vulture trying to steal stuff in New York and, cut down the time. But it was still fun. But there's so many details because I'm just thinking about that school broadcast they had after they got back. They're like, the local team won, and they also was with Spider-Man, and then the kid's like, oh man, that was crazy. It's like blanking him out. He's like, it's like a Bon Jovi concert, and the teacher's like, I can't afford to lose a kid on the trip. Not again. Like, all that stuff is funny. The details, even the kids doing the broadcasting, like reading straight off the script, like, hey, Midtown High, how are you doing today? Like, it was so perfect. That's high school. So all that stuff is fun. But I thought that chunk could have been cut out. And then you get to the ferry scene. Plays out exactly like we thought. I didn't think that Spider-Man would cause the boat to go crazy or to get cut up, because Vulture tells him, like, look, you don't know what you're dealing with. And Spider-Man, being optimistic and enthusiastic, tries to do the web up and ends up splitting the boat. And then Tony Stark has to come and save it. The twist was cool, though, because the FBI were there. It was a setup. And they would have went to jail because Tony listened to Peter and was going to get them put in jail. But then Peter, being gung-ho and not being rebellious, kind of screwed up. And then the best part is because earlier Tony sent the drone armor to save Spider-Man, and he wasn't there. And so this time he's like, if you cared, you would be here. And then it opens up and Tony steps out. Even though you knew it was coming, like, I swear the first time when they showed the drone save him out the river and you saw Tony wasn't actually there, I was like, I bet you later he's going to be like, oh, you're not in there, and he comes out. But the way he does it is great. Robert Downey Jr., this was the best he's been as Iron Man. I don't care what anyone says. I like all the Playboy stuff that starts out. I like the destructive Iron Man stuff in Iron Man 3 and Civil War. But I think the mentoring Tony is the best Tony, because you juxtapose him with a little kid, a little hero, and he's like, look, I'm Tony. I got this down, and I made mistakes. I want you to be better. It was very emotional. To me, it was emotional, because he's like, I want to be like you, Tony. I want you to be better. Or I wanted you to be better. And then he, of course, says that great line, if you're nothing without this suit, then you don't deserve to have it. And I'm just like, man, Robert Downey Jr., I've never liked him more as Iron Man than I did in this movie. So then it goes back to normal, kind of. He's in detention, ends up getting a date. He's building the Death Star with Ned, all that good stuff. But again, once it's time to become Spider-Man, he chooses Spider-Man. So we find out Vulture is actually Liz's dad. don't know how believable it is. Something about that just doesn't seem believable to me. Like, I'm like, okay, they're everyday workers, but look at this big, dumb, nice house. Your daughter's super smart, goes to a fancy school, and they make it seem like Vulture is like, I gotta do this. You know why I gotta do this. I gotta provide. I gotta do this. It's like, okay, y'all got a pretty nice life. It's been 8 years. You've been providing, making money. You made it seem like y'all was, eating ramen noodles and beans every night. Like, we barely getting by. Like, you living a pretty nice life. So you doing illegal stuff to keep your lifestyle up? Get a regular job. Like, why couldn't you get a regular, like, you do this work, do some construction, welding, join a union. You could make some good money and still live nice. So, but it's a movie. But to me, I'm just like, I don't know. That kind of cut down Vulture's motivation for me. And I understand providing for the family, but it's like one daughter, your wife who probably works, and you in a nice place. Like, it ain't like you got 18 kids and, your wife is sick on, with cancer. So, I don't know. That was a little weird to me, but it sets up this dynamic between Vulture and Spider-Man that's totally different. And again, he chooses to go be Spider-Man instead of Homecoming. Now, honestly, after that, the whole plane, I thought it was throwaway. It was cool, especially in IMAX, it's cool. It's the final collision, but I thought everything else in the movie was better than that final scene. It was kind of whatever to me, to be honest. And a lot of the CGI with his Iron Man, Spider-Man suit, I didn't like. Like 2 times, I didn't like it. Civil War, I didn't like it. Trailers, I didn't like it. When it's close up and Tom Holland in the suit, it looks good. Just like Tobey Maguire. Back in the day when you used a lot of practical because you didn't have a lot of CGI, it looked good. You could see the detail. When they do CGI, it looks crappy to me. And it's Disney and Sony. It's 2017. Why don't you have better effects? So, I don't know. But anyway, so the movie kind of ends there. Then the last scene with Tony and him making him an Avenger. It was good up until Peter turned around and said, this was a test, right? As soon as he said that, I knew it wasn't a test. I hate when they do that in movies. Like, if Peter just would have ran off and then him and Happy talked and then they showed the reporters, I would have been like, oh crap. But as soon as Peter was like, that was a test, right? And they was like, yeah, sure. I was like, oh, it wasn't a test. So, I don't know. Making him an Avenger, moving him away from his family, all that seems a little weird to me. Like, especially because one of my negatives is that Spider-Man sucked this whole movie. Like, people don't like origin stories because they don't want to see all the why behind things. I like the why behind heroes, but I don't like to see them all as a novice. Like, even Wonder Woman. Now, it's a fish out of water story. I like that. But she was too long in the movie. I don't know what I'm doing. Same thing with Spider-Man. The whole movie, I don't know. Like, this man swinging, hitting, falling on his face. Like, he was just bad at his job. Those are the parts of origin movies I don't really like, but I do like to see the why behind them. So anyway, so I'm thinking like, okay, he messed up a lot trying to stop Vulture. He barely saved them in Washington with the elevator. Now y'all gonna make him an Avenger? So I thought that was weird. But Pepper Potts comes back, Gwyneth Paltrow. Rumors were she hated everybody not coming back, but hey, it works. I love Pepper Potts. I love Gwyneth Paltrow. I'm glad she's back. Yeah, it was cool. So it wraps up well. Then end credit scene. So I didn't realize that one guy with the messed up eye was Scorpion. Like they said his name. He's Scorpion in the comics. And so you got Scorpion, Vulture, Shocker, all of them in jail together. He doesn't tell Scorpion who Peter is. A lot of speculation on why. I just figure he is helping him because he saved his daughter and he saved him. So he's like, I'll give you, like he said, he nothing's more important than family. So he gave him that pass. And then the Captain America scene, one of the best end credit scenes ever. Everything with Captain America was so funny. So you got detention. You screwed up. I was just like, okay, wow. But looking at it after 2 times, it's a great cast, which hurts because you don't have a lot of screen time for Hannibal Buress. Donald Glover, man. Donald Glover was hilarious in this movie. Even in the small parts that he had, his lines were so funny. Just thinking about it, and he's like, buying the alien guns. He's like, man, I want something to stick them up with. I don't want to send them back in time. And then when Spider-Man's interrogating him, he was like, what happened to your voice? What are you talking about? I heard you at the bridge. I know what a girl sound like. I don't know. I was dying laughing in the theater. Donald Glover was hilarious. But wrapping it up, man, like I said, it's at a 91 for me. Definitely an A movie. It definitely captures the essence of Spider-Man a lot more than I realized the first time. Even though there's a lot of things that are different, I would say like the frosting is different than you're used to, but the cake is the same. The essence is pretty much the same. One thing I really didn't like though, besides things connecting so much to Tony, I didn't like the absence of Uncle Ben. Once you got to the scene where he's trapped, or Spider-Man's trapped under the rubble, and he's trying to find something to give him strength, I felt like that callback should have been to Uncle Ben. And I'm not saying that Uncle Ben had to be in the whole movie or half the movie. I felt like he could have did flashbacks or voiceover flashbacks of something emotional that he said to him. Because Uncle Ben in the classic Spider-Man story is that strength. He's that anchor to Spider-Man. As heroes get higher and powerful and they do crazy things and get popular, they have to have anchors to remind them who they are and how they got there. And I felt like we missed that in this movie. The hero journey of Spider-Man is a little off. It doesn't feel exactly like Spider-Man. And I think not having Uncle Ben mentioned at all is a big part of that. Because once he is, like, Tom Holland does a great job of feeling trapped and I'm crying and I'm struggling. But once he finally gets the strength, it's like, where'd that come from? It's just like, I'm Spider-Man. Okay, let's do this. Instead of really calling back to his anchor who told him, like, you have it in you. Because Tony didn't tell him that. Aunt May didn't tell him that. Nobody told him that. And so it just comes out of nowhere. It should have been Uncle Ben the one reminding him of who he is, why he does this, and giving him strength. So I didn't like that part. It felt flat to me when it should have been an epic moment. But, other than that, like I said, I really enjoyed the movie. Notice people that's setting up the Spider-Man universe. Tony sells Avengers Tower. They leave from New York. So in the future, whether they get another contract with Marvel or not, Spider-Man and the Spider-Man universe movies are going to be able to play in New York without having to interfere with the Avengers and worry about all that connection. So it's happening. I thought it was a smart move. But anyway, that's my review. Go to comment sections. Let me know what you thought about the movie. What were the funniest parts to you? What was your grade of the movie? Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and if you heard here, it's official canon.